Hello and welcome to this week's edition of WCS GameDay. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me as always is my co-host, Tate Mathews. Tate, it's been a very busy week this week in WCS Sports Conference. First, let's talk about Directors' Cup points. Ravenwood right now is rolling better than any high school. I mean, the Ravenwood soccer team right now competed in the soccer state championship tournament, not the championship, but the tournament. The girls' soccer team did, as well as the cross-country team. Their football, of course, is 10-0 going into the playoffs. Girls golf also as a team competed as well as individual golfers for them. Ravenwood right now, hashtag G2 Bar is pretty strong.
They are. One thing they've got going for them, you always know when you're talking cross-country, volleyball, track, you're going to have soccer. Brentwood and Ravenwood both going to be very well represented in the postseason tournaments. Ravenwood obviously having a better football season, so that makes basketball, which we're not there yet, but that's going to make basketball all that more important for the Brentwood side, maybe catch up on some Director Cup points. But it's looking like, at least in the fall semester, those two are going to be the ones that everybody's going to have to catch come spring when you give this thing out.
Absolutely. They already got a head start on everybody as far as that's going. Obviously, Brentwood bringing home the first state championship of the year with their volleyball team. But at the same time, in the cross-country meet this over this weekend on the boys' side, Brentwood runners-up, as well as they were as runners-up in golf. And Ravenwood finished fourth. In the girls' side, Ravenwood was third, Brentwood was fourth, and Indy was seventh in girls. Congratulations to both all the schools that competed in the running side of the cross-country. The individuals, they had an individual runner-up on the boys' side as well from Brentwood. Got beat 20 seconds, roughly 20 seconds in the championship meet there. And it's just that it seems like you said, both Brentwood schools have everything going. Volleyball champs, golf runners-up, cross-country runner-up for Brentwood. Ravenwood has soccer in, cross-country in, football 10-0. Who knows what they hold right now in girls golf. But like you said, important cup points on the line.
Without a doubt. And depending on how far Ravenwood can go, which we think they've got a chance to make a very long run, hey, they could end up in Cookeville in 5 weeks. I don't know how many points that counts, but I'm hoping it counts a lot because that's a big accomplishment.
It is a big accomplishment. And moving into Week 10, we saw these matchups play out, and we knew that going in, Brentwood 2-8 coming in, 2-4 in the district standings versus Independence. We knew that Independence was on the edge all year long of being that team. I guarantee it right now, Hendersonville's thinking, what a draw for us right now. We really didn't want to get Independence. I'm sure they're not the only team in that quadrant not to want Independence. But we knew going in that Independence at any given time with a flip of switch could be a team that could be tough to reckon with.
That's right. The score doesn't show it. They won 35-14. They were up 35-0 in the third quarter, so they could have scored more points. That's how potent that offense is. But Coach Blade, they got the running clock. A healthy amount of respect for Coach Woodward and the Bruins, and he started subbing in and getting some younger kids in. But, they're playing really well right now. You're right. Hendersonville, I think that's a good matchup for them. They played, if you remember last year, I believe in the quarterfinals, and it came down to the very end. Hendersonville barely got them. So good matchup for both of them, but what Hendersonville does not like to see is a quick striking passing game. And if we know anything about Independence, that's one thing they can do. Andrew Bunch to Nate Johnson, he can score from anywhere on the field. So I think a good draw for them, and I was very glad that them along with Franklin, Centennial, and Ravenwood all went west. That was huge for Williamson County, the bigger schools in the playoffs.
We know that Brentwood had senior night that night, and once again, you touched on Coach Woodward. We know that he's moving into the direction of the future. We knew going in that he couldn't make it into the playoffs. Only role they could really play is spoiler possibly, but give Brentwood credit. They finished the season on 2-8, 2-4 in the district, playing the number one toughest schedule in the state.
That's right, and there were a lot of things that went into it too. It's Halloween night. It was the first night. It was just miserably cold, and then it got even colder. So I think they showed up and played hard. It's just been a tough season for them. Now what they can do is let's start moving towards next year, get in that weight room. They got to get bigger. They got to get a bit stronger, but they will. And Brentwood is a storied program in high school football. It won't be long. They'll be back up there. We'll have, instead of 6 out of 8 teams in the playoffs, we'll get Brentwood back where they're supposed to be. Summit's on the right track. We'll have 8 out of 8. That'll be a great thing to see.
Well, congratulations to Independence for winning that game. 35-14, that finishes their record at 6-4, which, like we spoke of earlier, that's kind of fool's gold because we know of the games that they lost in heartbreak fashion during that. 3-3 on the year in the Williamson County Sports Conference, and like I said, they're going in on that draw with Hendersonville. And I really think right now that Hendersonville is probably thinking, man, we could have had a better draw.
They've definitely played a tougher schedule than Hendersonville has. You know, we talk about Brentwood's schedule all the time, and it is the toughest schedule in the state. But dang, look at Independence's, man. I mean, they played Blackman. They played Beach. Beach is in the 5A state playoffs. Marshall County, a #1 seed. They've had a heck of a schedule, and it's not like outside of the 2-touchdown loss to Ravenwood, they were either ahead or in these games very late or all the way down to the end. So they very easily could be sitting here at 8-2, 9-1.
And I personally think that Independence still holds the best road win for the year for the Big Six, going to Marshall County in that environment and winning. So I wish the best of luck to Coach Blade and those guys. It's going to be fun to see how this plays out. Moving on, Centennial, 8-2, 4-2 going into Franklin, or Franklin rather coming into Centennial. What a game. Back and forth, huge crowds. We knew that second place is on the line, and that has that playoff implication of who travels, who hosts. 37-34, came down to the last wire. What do we know about that game, Tate?
Great game. We talked about this game had a lot of big-time players in it, and they all needed to play well, and they did, man. That's the best thing about games like this. Franklin, Joe Critchlow, Bryce Milam, Garrison Mathews, they're big-time players. They played big-time. You look over at Centennial, Deion Sanders, Terrell Dotson, Manuel Hall, they played big-time. It's just one of those games where it looked like whoever had the ball last had a chance to win it. Joe Critchlow, we talk about it all the time. This is one of those games that it just proves what we're talking about. When you have a senior quarterback who's got a lot of experience, he's got 3 years of experience under his belt. He's played in big-time games for 3 years now, and he did. They were down going into the fourth quarter. It looked like, man, this thing's not looking good for the Rebels. He just kept doing what they were doing, kept leading them back, kept chipping away at that lead, got the touchdown at the end to take the lead, and big win for them. So, that game we talked about it, we thought that was going to be the hardest game to pick all year, could be the best game all year, and it was.
Well, coming in, we've talked about Critchlow. What a player he is. And he has this unbelievable pass to Mathews. It's a one-handed catch. That's also our WCTV Play of the Week. Check it out. We'll be right back.
Here we go. Rhymes the throw to the end zone, caught one-handed.
Oh my God!
Garrison Mathews.
He was interfered with, and he came up with that pass. Oh my Lord!
8-yard touchdown.
Acrobatic catch
As the 8-yard touchdown pass
Rhymes
here.
in motion, and you're going to see Mathews at the top of your screen, and he's being held like crazy right there. One hand tips it up to himself, rotates, hangs onto that ball, falls down with a huge catch. Wow.
What an unbelievable catch that was. One-handed, the guy's holding on to his jersey, bringing him down. The flag's thrown for pass interference, and he still comes down with the ball and catches it for a touchdown.
Well, and what an advantage that is. Garrison Mathews is a basketball player. That was kind of that was almost like a feeding the post player down in the post.
That's the old high-low right there.
That's right, high-low. You get down there in the goal line. I mean, when you get inside the 10, sometimes it's hard to call a play because you're running out of room. What an advantage you have to be able to throw it up to him. He brings that thing in one-handed. He had another one in the game, too. I think it was a 6-yarder, but it wasn't as nice. But he had another one just like it. So that is a great advantage for them. Critchlow put it where it had to be. He made the catch. Great play.
Critchlow finished with 225 yards passing, which is a great game for him. Milam, we've been talking about all year, had 85 yards rushing. That's just a stock standard game from him. That's by no means bad, but that was just a good even attack. But what's interesting is Centennial led 28-17 going into the fourth quarter. This has kind of been a thing for them all year long. Going to lead late in the game, and then all of a sudden have a fourth quarter that's probably not as what they wanted to design to do, and have 6 points to Franklin's 20 in the fourth quarter. They get beat 37-34. I know Coach Rector's sitting around thinking about this, and we'll talk about next week's draw for those two guys too later. But you're sitting around, you get beat in this fashion just like this, and it just doesn't sit well as a coach or with the players.
I guarantee you it's not sitting well with them at all. They had a chance to win, and they couldn't get enough stops in the fourth quarter to hold that lead. It was typical Brian Rector fashion. Remember when they used to call Tommy Tuberville the riverboat gambler? That's Rector. Rector came out second half, onside kick, faked a punt in the first half. I mean, that guy's the master of the trick plays, and he was doing that and had confidence in his kids, and they worked well. So to be able to do those, dial up those plays, and then you're not able to get just one more stop in the fourth quarter, you're right, that didn't sit well with him or the players. Now, here's the good thing. You came one stop away from winning them, so you got a chance to beat them. You play them again in the playoffs, so you can beat them. They've just got to get some of those things corrected. I'll tell you another thing I liked. We talked about Corey Fatoni. Franklin lost that game to McGavick earlier in the year because he was injured, and they lost by a field goal. They end up winning this game by a field goal. He hit 2 long field goals, extra points. So that goes to show, come playoff time, kicking game, heck of an edge.
That's an unbelievable edge, and it gives you the difference on your kickoff returns as well, being whether or not to be in return or touchbacks, flips the field for you, and it's a weapon that's just not accounted for in that field goal range. But congratulations. What a game. What an atmosphere. Congratulations to Franklin on that win, and we'll talk more about this round 2 come later on the second half of the show. Ravenwood versus Summit. We knew going in, Old Sparty had their hands full. It's crazy to me. We look at this and opposite end of the spectrums. Summit finishes the year 0-10, 0-6 for the year, and Ravenwood comes in for the first time in school history, 10-0, 6-0 in the district play. And congratulations to Ravenwood. We can't talk enough about them, but I want to touch real quickly on Summit and the direction they're going. Brian Coleman came in a situation. Anytime you take over a program, it takes a small amount of time, or actually a large amount of time, to get your system implemented, your philosophy built, get the kids to buy in. And right now, I feel from all indications, from all the other coaches, and from what I've seen my own, Brian Coleman has that program going in the right direction.
Without a doubt. He came in and it's a program, a young program, not a whole lot of success. He completely changed what they were doing on offense, and believe it or not, that takes time, They were decimated with injuries this year. Every time it looked like they were getting close, they'd lose some guys. And that's just a program right now that you can't lose. You're starting two tailbacks or running backs. And so you're right. All the coaches speak very highly of what they're doing. They're buying in. I guarantee you, if you ever go down there, they're working their tails off. So he's got the right stuff going. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
And he's running an offense that's non-typical. When you run that wing T, there's a lot of nuances you have to figure out. But let me just say this. The Summit squad. The Summit squad right now,
Old Sparty.
If you give Old Sparty just a little something to cheer for, if they start winning, I can't imagine what their culture and climate's going to be, because right now they are so high, things are going well. They're meeting those guys on the field after a loss. Keep your heads up. And I appreciate the fact of what Sarah Lamb and that administration has done down there, setting the tone for that fan base, and it's coming. It's going to come. But let's talk about Ravenwood. 10-0, 6-0, first time in school history, WCS Sports Conference to go undefeated. They win it. And, man, I'm telling you, they have stacked up the stats. Let's look at this stat right here. Ravenwood for the year, 374, opponents 98. They have outscored their opponents it's just been – and a lot of those points have kind of come in the latter part of the season. Get some young guys in, kind of resting up, whatever the case may be, but 374-98.
They've just flat gotten after everybody they played. Really, the only close game is the Franklin game. They've came out and really dominated just about everybody they played. So, Coach Webb talked about it a few weeks ago. I don't know how you can call it the no-name defense when nobody's scoring any points on you. And you're right, we know those names: Jeb Stewart, Garrison Geronimo's. They've Nick Barton playing very, very well. Austin Percy, we know about him as a wide receiver, but he is a heck of a DB. Yeah, they've played well. And the amazing thing, now think about this. Ravenwood has a state championship under their belt, and they also have a state runner-up. And this is the first 10-0 season in school history. Heck of an accomplishment. Great thing, when they hired Will Hester a couple years ago, there were some people who weren't real big on it because of his record as the head coach at Laverne. And now look at what they've done now. He's lost 2 games, including 1 playoff game to Blackman last year. He's lost 2 games in 2 years. They have done an unbelievable job.
Will Hester is the ultimate PR guy from a head coaching perspective, and he's done a fantastic job. That fan base is as rabid as a fan base as you get. And we have a special announcement coming out for those guys later on this afternoon, so make sure you stay tuned on Twitter. But G2 Bar, man, they've patented that, they've trademarked that, they've bought into that. Their entire fan base is just on edge. Let me tell you this stat right now. We talked about what they've done earlier in all the other sports. Last year, guess what high school won the most for academic achievement? Guess who won the highest for academic growth? Don't tell me that athletics does not just filter over into the academics portion of things. You feel like you're a part of a family there. They are rolling, and they want to be successful in everything they do. And I can't blame them. Here, listen to these stats right here. Cole Brown, 100 attempts. He completed 100 of 174 attempts for 1,800 yards. Now, we've talked about their defense a little bit, but the lights, the glamour, the glitz, this offensive side is loaded. Seth Rowland, 1,068 yards on the year. Cole Brown's got 507. Chris Rowland with 460. I mean, they are just running well, and that's set up by the throw. And here's your throwing stats. Van Jefferson, 49 catches, 915 yards. He will eclipse the 1,000-yard mark. You can book it.
Almost 30 yards an average carry on that. Catch on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Austin Percy, the most underrated player in the WCS Sports Conference, 41 catches, 762 yards. Van Jefferson, Austin Percy are averaging 18.6 and 18.7 yards per carry. I'm just telling you right now, good luck. And then you have to boot Austin Burt at 7 catches, 101 yards. So whoever you cover, it's going to open up those running lanes. And I'll tell you what, Ravenwood right now is looking like they could go the distance. And I hope they can. I wish them the best of luck as they play their first round game. When we come back from break, we're going to talk real quick about our Division II, Page and Fairview and their games that they had. And then we'll talk about this week's matchups that they're going to have in the first round of playoffs. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
My book is Where the Sidewalk Ends. I like this book because the poems in it are really funny, and I like the illustrations, and they make me laugh.
Welcome back to this week's edition of WCS Game Day. With me is co-host Tate Mathews. I'm Jeremy Qualls. Let's talk about our WCS Sports Conference Division II, Page at Spring Hill. Page going in 6-3 on that night, 2-2. Spring Hill coming in at 4-5, 2-2. Spring Hill we knew that could be a tough matchup. They're full of athletes. Page getting banged up. Page gets beat 33-23. What do we know about that game?
You're right. Spring Hill loaded with athletes, and they were fighting for their first playoffs in, I believe, 3 or 4 years. Had a lot to play for. Page gave him a game, but just so banged up. You want to talk about a two-way player. Sean McMahon. At safety, he had 10 tackles, and on wide receiver, 5 catches, 112 yards. What a game by him. Filling in with all those weapons out. He played great. And then Dylan Myers, 11 carries, 131 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Page just so beat up right now. They were at a disadvantage against a very athletic Spring Hill team.
Well, it's kind of interesting. We go back to the first game of the year at home for Old Sparty. They play Spring Hill and play them to a pretty close game. Interesting to see that. Spring Hill kind of finishes 500 at 5-5, 2-3. So that's a good indication that Spring Hill has gotten better. Summit probably has gotten better over the year as well. But we knew Spring Hill was always a play or two from being really dangerous. And with Page's injuries right now, it was just not a good game for Coach Rathbone and those guys. Hopefully those guys get their injuries taken care of this week as they have a long travel to Hixson for the first round of playoffs, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But Fairview, on the other hand, Fairview has a huge win. They go to Waverly. Waverly's sitting at 8-1 on the year and get a 21-7 win at Waverly. Great game for the Jackets.
Huge win, and that gets the Jackets to 7-3. So, Waverly was one of the feel-good stories of the year, putting up a lot of points. They've got a lot of athletes we talked about. Waverly's not an easy place to win. You've been down there, man. You got to win when you go in those places because they're not going to make it easy on you in any way, form, or fashion. So big win for them. Hunter Zimmerman played great. You talk about on defense, Boulay and Buttrey, those 2 youngsters, both of them 13 tackles, Buttrey with 10 solos. So we talked about it. We talk about it. It sounds like a broken record, but it was what it was. They were so banged up. Fairview got healthy towards the end of the year, and they're just reeling off big win after big win. Page and Waverly, 2 in a row going into the playoffs. I think Coach Hughes got to feel great about his team.
Absolutely. Let's think about this. Early on in the season, first 4 games, they're sitting at 1-3. They lose back-to-back games against Creekwood and Montgomery Central. Zimmerman gets healthy, and all of a sudden, not only did they get to 500, they finish off the year at 7-3, probably the hottest team right now in 3A going in to the playoffs. So congratulations to Jackets and Coach Hughes and those guys for doing the things that are necessary to get themselves better throughout the year. And that is the end of our Division II discussion. Now let's talk about this week's games. Round 1 of the playoffs, TWSAA releases the brackets earlier on Saturday morning. Let me just tell you, I'm not a fan right now of the bracket selection committee at the TWSAA. Now, with that being said, the rubber has to meet the road at some point in time, and you have to beat those teams to get in. And that's fine, not only to get in, but to keep on going down the road and to win it all. That's not the problem. I just don't understand a little bit. I know that the selection this year was based on geography after the fact that they had their seeding of those top teams. I just don't like Franklin Centennial's rematch. You know, you go into the final game of the season, Franklin Centennial battle out for that second spot for the home match. Then on the other side of the coin, you have McGavick and Overton playing in that first round matchup, coming out of their same district. And then we're going to turn around and play Franklin Centennial again when they could have matched up because Franklin has played McGavick, so Franklin played Overton. Overton has played Centennial. Flip-flop it, let them play first round, and then let the second round decide who gets out of Wilco. But just not in the cards. So you have to turn around right now and you have to play again in that second week. And I'm telling you, that's a tough game. If I'm sitting in a coach's seat right now, I'm liking where Coach Rector's sitting. I like coming into the fact that I got beat. I got beat in the fashion that I did, got beat by 3. It is really hard to beat a team more than once in basketball, much less football.
Yeah, especially in consecutive weeks. So, I mean, the only good thing that comes out of it is at least they didn't have to spend all night Friday gathering tape, and then Saturday after the announcement, they didn't have to go gathering tape from different coaches here and there. Now, Huddle's made it easier, but still, you got to find it. So, hey, all you had to do was turn on last night's game tape. So, but you're right. I wish there was a way. It seems like it would have made more sense to send McGavick to Centennial and Overton to Franklin, but they didn't do it. I guarantee you, we know both of them well. Those guys, as soon as they knew who they were playing, they were probably fussed about it for about 30 seconds, and then they went to work. So here's what you can do if you're the Cougars. They came to our house at the end of the season, cost us second place in the district, beat us by 3 at our house. Now we're going to go back to their house and pick them off in the first round. Coach Webb and them, they got to find a way to get 2 in a row. You're right. There had to have been a better way to do it. But that's the way it is.
Absolutely, and I'm telling you, Coach Rector right now is probably feeling pretty good about this. I'll give up the regular season wins to put you guys at the house first round. Not only that, let's talk about this. They win, then you face the winner of Independence Hendersonville. And then the winner of that game gets Ravenwood possibly in that third round. So we're going to end up cutting our own throats, shooting ourselves in the foot. Williamson County just absolutely putting each other out all the way through. I'm not happy about that, but it is what it is because it comes a point in time. The pros to this is that you look at the top half of the bracket, and you have Oakland and Blackman and Maryville having to eliminate themselves. So it's a good thing for that, but at the same time, I sure would like to have an opportunity for 2 of our other teams to go up into that other bracket and a chance to advance. But moving on, we talked about the Indy Hendersonville game. Hendersonville 9-1. Indy is having to go to Hendersonville. Hendersonville having some pretty quality wins there, beating Station Camp 44-0. So that's encouraging for the Ravenwood fans. Big win over Gallatin, 56-14. Played Brentwood earlier, 54-33. What do we know about Hendersonville?
9-1, their lone loss is to Riverdale. I was actually at that game. They've got a lot of firepower. When you're talking about the wing tee, Coach Coleman, if you want to see how to run the traditional wing tee, Hendersonville is the ones that does it. They have a very athletic quarterback in Jeremiah Elston. He can beat you with his arm, but he can really beat you with his feet. So they've got a good group of running backs. They can score a lot of points quickly, but they're going to do it on the ground. Independence, I think, will have an advantage on their quick strike offense. So I think Independence will come out of this game with a win.
I bet when like we talked earlier in the first segment, I bet when those parents came out, they were like, oh man, had to play Indy. But good. Best of luck to Indy. Strike fast, strike hard, stay in there, and beat Hendersonville. Ravenwood versus Station Camp. We spoke a little bit of that. Station Camp coming in at 5-5, 3-4. Not much to say. Ravenwood's just got to go in and take care of business with those guys. What do you think?
Station Camp, quite possibly, the one chance they had was to beat them on the passing game. There is a good chance they will be without their starting quarterback. If that is the case, and I think it was going to be anyways, I think this could be ugly for the Bison. Ravenwood just playing at a very high level. I think they'll get after them on Friday night.
Going into our Division II side, Fairview, as we talked about, coming in so hot with those wins that they have, going into the 3A football playoff bracket, playing Westmoreland 8-2 coming in. Westmoreland, just a quick rundown, their schedule has beaten Cheatham County 42-0, Harpeth 53-20, White House 14-7, Greenbrier 21. So they're riding a 5-game win streak coming in, and they're pretty hot as well. So interesting matchup for Coach Hughes.
It is, and they're kind of similar schools. Westmoreland's kind of on the outside of Sumner County, Fairview on the outside of Williamson County. Still a community school, but you're right. It's going to be a long bus trip up there because of where it is in Sumner County, but they can. It's definitely a game Fairview can win. It
is, but looking down the pipe when they win that game, or if they win that game, getting the CPA Harpeth winner, which we all know that CPA. So, that's a tough second round, but you never know. That's why they play the game. And I wish the best of luck to Coach Hughes and the Yellow Jackets. Page in the 4A football bracket has drawn going to Hixson. They'll have to probably leave at the crack of dawn to get there. They're losing an hour on the east side of the state, going to Hixson. Hixson's sitting at 8-2, 6-0 in their district as well. What do we know about that game real quick?
I don't know a whole lot about Hixson, but I know this. Livingston Academy is really good, and they beat them. South Pittsburgh, not as good as they usually are, but traditionally very good. They beat them. I'm guessing Hixson's probably a pretty good football team.
Well, they're probably not bad. They're coming in with 6 or 7 straight wins. Best of luck to Page. I know they're injured. Hopefully they can get over their injuries going into this game. So we've talked about the playoff scenarios. It comes to our favorite part. It's time to pick them. Our prediction time. I thought I gained a game on you, but however, we split last week. I'm sitting at 25-9, and you're sitting at 28-6, and it's just it's looking tough for me to catch up ground unless I can get right here in the playoffs. Let's look at the playoff predictions here. Indy at Hendersonville.
Tough one, but I'm going with Indy, man. I like Coach Blade, Nate Johnson, and Andrew Bunch, the quick strike offense. Independence.
Absolutely. Indy Nation is going to go in there. Upset alert just because of the seedings. Not an upset alert to us because we know what they're capable of. Indy goes in there and stuns Hendersonville. Centennial at Franklin.
Man, I'm going to go with Centennial. I was wrong last week. I'm going to go with Centennial. I don't want the Rebel Nation to hate me, but I just think, how you going to win 2 weeks in a row? I'm going with Centennial.
My gut is telling me you never go against what you've been going all year long. The Doctor defense has dialed it in so tight, but it's tough to win 2 weeks in a row in football. I'm going to give the edge to Centennial.
Whoa.
Ravenwood Station Camp.
G2 bar, baby.
G2 bar all the way. Fairview at Westmoreland. This is a tough one.
I'm going with the Yellow Jackets. I like Hunter Zimmerman. I like Hunter Caldwell. I think they go up there and get a win.
I'm as well. Fairview wins in this first round. Get the chance at CPA that second round. It may not be what they just drew up, but you know what? Let's go in there and let's play them and see what happens. I wish the best of luck. I think Fairview goes in there and beats Westmoreland. Page at Hixson.
I'm going to go with Hixson for one reason. I just think Page is so banged up. I don't think Bear Bryant could go in there and win a playoff game with the MASH unit they've got. But congratulations to the season they've had, and I hope I'm wrong.
Well, I'm going to go against you. It's this late in the season. I have to make up ground. I tell you what, Page is banged up. Maybe, just maybe, if they can get just a little bit back going into this game, it would be a big stunner.
Plus, they still have Michael Magochi.
You can't go against Michael Magochi and his quarterback efficiency rating. So I'm going to go with Page on this one. Come on, Pats. Give me the best of luck on this. Get me back in the game with Tate. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's edition of WCS Game Day, a special playoff edition. And always remember, be nice, Williamson. We'll see you next time.
If we want to keep the blue in the sky, the green in the trees. We better care for the air we breathe, that it would truly be a breath of fresh air when we all can see forever through the air we breathe.